Welcome to another episode of Garden to Table with Rose, and I am Rose. So, it is about 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. I just got done with my front yard walkabout and pulling out a couple of weeds, pulling out a couple of plants. We had heavy thunderstorms last night, and we haven't had a lot of rain, so thank goodness for that. But there was at least 3 inches of rain last night, and a lot of things were battered, had fallen over. So I did pull out a few things, mostly annuals, and a lot of that liriope that was springing up everywhere that I don't even really like. So it's a lot easier to pull weeds and things like that out. When the ground is wet, they come out really easily. So I decided I would do a little backyard tour here because I don't think I've done one in over a month. It's been a long time, and the backyard is just always more of a work in progress than the front, primarily because I grow food in the back, so there's a lot more turnover and things like that going on. So here we are in the backyard. I just pulled out a lot of the buplurum that I had in the front that I used for cut flowers. So a lot of it had fallen over because it's a pretty tall plant in the rain. And so I pulled out, this amount to salvage it and to use it. I probably will dry a lot of it because it's way too much for flower bouquets right now. I'll probably dry a lot of it. There's still a bit up there, so I want to leave some because I would like for it to reseed. I don't want to have to keep planting buplurum every year, and it's supposed to reseed very easily. So I am in Kalamazoo, Michigan, Zone 6A, and it is the 15th of July, Saturday morning. Like I said, it's about 8 o'clock and it's overcast today. But I'm going to give you the rundown of what's happening in the backyard. First, let me do a pan. So, this is called the berry patch because it's mostly berry shrubs over here. But there are annuals thrown in. There's tubs with food thrown in as well. But I've always referred to this as the berry patch. That area over there, I've started calling the flower field. It was just the big field when I grew vegetables there, but now I'm calling the flower field because that's where I grow most of my cut flowers. This is my grape arbors, I call them. There are several grape plants in there, grapevines, but there are also a number of berry shrubs over there, and dahlias that I planted this year. So, and then over there, kind of on the side of this, well, not on the side of the shed, before the shed, where you see that tall stalk of corn, that is my vegetable patch. That is where I am growing most of my in-ground vegetables this year. Over by the shed is another small patch, and that is a perennial, more of a perennial bed. A lot of perennials. There's a lot of lilies over there. And there's also still some vegetables. There are a couple of squash plants over there. So things are mixed, but I generally have a specific area for a specific thing. This raised bed, I've taken the cold frame off because it's hot now, and there's not much in there. I just planted some cucumber seedlings because I didn't have any cucumbers for whatever reason. I don't know if my seedlings died or I don't know if I forgot to plant them, but I had no cucumber plants this season, so I have 3 bush cucumbers in there, and then there are a couple of tomato plants in there and a couple of peppers. There's not much in there because that was where I had the cool weather crops that recently got pulled out, like my spinach, chard, arugula, things like that. And then way over there is where not all my fruit trees, but there are a number of fruit trees over there, a whole series of them. And then on the deck here, I have just a line of green stalk planters, and that's where I grow stuff I want to grab really quick typically. So I would typically put a lot of lettuce in there, although it's a little hot for lettuce now. So a couple of them are empty, but all my herbs pretty much are in there that I use daily. And then I have green beans that I planted in there. Thank goodness I did, because I planted some in the ground and I had to pull those out because they all succumbed to, I don't know if it was rust or something, but they were looking very sickly and they had rust colored looking spots on them. So I pulled all those out Yeah, but those look healthy in the green stalk, so I'm happy about that. So let's go in here. Goodness, I can't stop at everything because I don't want this to take forever. I know people don't want to watch 2-hour videos. But anywho, this obviously is tomatoes, and there are tomatoes in there. Little ones. You know, our tomatoes are just really getting going here. And this one's tomatoes as well. I don't know if there are any on there or not. What's in here? Probably tomatoes and peppers, but not much came up. I planted seeds in this, and as you can see, I only got about 3 or 4 plants there. This is all eggplants in this container. These are tomatoes, and these are my favorite variety, which is the Honey Delight. They're a little yellow cocktail tomato. So I have green ones there. This is a tub of potatoes that is almost ready to harvest. When it starts dying back like that, that's natural. You know, that means that it's almost time. So I'm excited because I love growing potatoes, and they store pretty well, so I can have them for a few months. So that's nice. This purple coneflower is huge. This is a perennial. It comes back every year, so it's been here practically since I planted the garden. I do have some blueberries over here. I don't think they're completely ready, just a few. I just planted this blueberry bush. It might have been this year, you know, late winter, or it could have been last year, but I haven't gotten fruit off of it yet. It's pretty new and it's forming fruit. I covered, this is an aronia berry and a josta berry in here, and I covered it because the fruit is starting to ripen, the berries, and I didn't want the birds to get to it. So I don't have any netting. I thought I had like bird netting, so I'm just using row cover because it doesn't need to be fertilized. I mean, the berries are already there. So yeah, I'm gonna keep that covered until it's time to harvest them. And then there are more potatoes in there, and that one of course is turning yellow too, so those are almost ready to harvest. I also have a number of peonies over here. Maybe I'll start calling it the peony and berry patch. But I have a number of peonies that I just planted this spring, so they're tiny, but they're growing. As you can see, there's one, but they're all about that size. So there's a whole row of them. But anyway, I've picked berries here. I had currants, I had gooseberries. There is the currants that I picked, I think were called the pink champagne. They were a light pink color. The gooseberries, there were 2 varieties of those as well. I picked a light green one. I'm not sure which variety that was. This huge thing here, this is an annual. This is actually a sunflower. I think it's called a Mexican sunflower. Tithonia, maybe? I like it. I'm telling you. It has these beautiful orange daisy-looking flowers with a yellow center. And I grew it for cut flowers, of course, but the best thing too is that the stem is long and strong, very sturdy stems. I really like that, and that's just one plant, so I'm definitely going to plant that one again. Here, I believe is some kind of salvia or lavender or something like that I grew from seed, Russian sage, one of those. But this is to go in the front in the landscape. I put all of the those types of plants that I tried to start back here because I wanted to kind of keep them protected and try to get them big over the growing season in the fall when you plant out new shrubs and stuff. I'm gonna move all those to the front, so I'm happy. I have looks like 4 here, and then I have some in a little raised bed as well that took off 3 or 4 over there, so I have quite a few. This one I'm on the fence about. I don't know that I will grow this again. This is some kind of daisy. I don't know the exact name, but it's a very tiny flower. It's bright yellow. I do like the foliage on it more than the flower. If you can see it, it's kind of gray green. So I think this will make a better filler than, you know, using it for the flower. So I may try. I haven't actually used any yet because it's really just flushed out. Before there was only one stem. As you can see, that's where I cut that stem down as far as possible to try to let it branch out. The cosmos are just starting to flower. I've cut maybe 2. They're pretty though. This is, I don't know what kind this is, variety, but it's a pretty purplish pink. Very nice. Let's see, strawberries. The strawberries always send off so many runners, and what I have been trying to do is cut off some of the runners and plant them in some of the other bags to replenish. You know, I do it willy-nilly with the strawberries. Either I just buy a pack of bare roots in the spring because they're pretty inexpensive, especially if you go to like Walmart or something, and just stick them in. But it would obviously be easier to use the plants I already have, so I'm gonna see if I can get any of them to root. I always have a hard time with rooting things, cuttings and things like that. They don't seem to go very well for me. A couple more blueberry plants here. I did cut back that sage. It had gotten huge in there. It was overtaking things. Now, I did have some success with my rosemary with the cuttings I took of that. As you can see there, I have four rosemary plants. I am very excited. These are cuttings from one rosemary plant that I took and just kind of stuck in the ground, really. I think I did put some rooting hormone on the end of it, but I planted probably at least a dozen and only 4 actually took. So this is another row of annuals. Zinnias are in here. Zinnias, you know, are prone to powdery mildew, and man, I haven't even gotten any stems from the zinnias yet, and it looks like some of them are succumbing. And you know, I do spray with fungicide and stuff like that, but I mean, they are just prone to have problems. I don't know what this one is called. I can't remember. I don't know if it's coreopsis or something else, some kind of daisy, but I've cut a little bit of that. This just bloomed. This is my first time actually seeing this. This blooms like overnight, and it's pretty. I don't know what it is, but it's little like balls, little yellow balls. I like it. It has strong stems, whatever it is, so I'll be using that in some bouquets as well. I did not cut any of these marigolds because they have a smell that I do not like. It's my first time really growing them and trying to grow them for cut flowers, and yeah, the scent was off-putting to me, so I did not use them. I just leave them here. I think they're supposed to deter pests too, so I leave them here for that. Here's my little rain gauge so we can see how much rain we had last night. So, yeah, there's about 3 inches of rain just last night. So that's a good amount of rain in one night, at least for us. The raspberries, I just harvested raspberries yesterday, a whole big bowl, and I made some more jam. I am over these raspberries now. It's all tied up. This thing has gotten massive. All of this is from this season of growing. Like, it was like I cut it down to, I had about 5 or 6 canes there, and then it just turned into this. And I think I've trimmed it at least once, and it just kept growing. So as I said before, I did not really like this berry. I didn't think it was very sweet, and so I am going to cut this whole thing down and pull it out probably this weekend, very soon, because I don't want it to get too much taller, because with all this rain there's going to be a huge growth spurt here. I don't want any more of the berries. I don't need any more raspberry jam. And it's a big thorny thing. One thing I notice is that it really, for the most part, only has berries at the top. You know, at the top third of the canes. So I'm gonna conclude, which I'm sure everybody else already knew, is new to me, because this is my first experience in growing all this stuff, but I'm going to assume that raspberries, well, maybe most raspberries, all raspberries, I don't know, but they seem to fruit on new canes, which means that technically you could probably cut it all the way down to the ground, or a foot from the ground, at the end of every season, in the fall, late fall, and then just let it flush out, because there's nothing in this whole mass. There are no berries in there. They are all, like I said, at the top third, and they're easy to pick. I mean, even though it's thorny, The thorns aren't sharp thorns like some of the other bushes I have. So they don't really scratch you much. And like I said, with the berries all being at the top, you're not really having to get in there too much. But I have already ordered a thornless variety. It will ship when it's time to plant it, which will be the fall, late fall. And so that's what's going in its place. Yeah. So this one is going out. It's actually hiding. It's hiding. There are, I believe, 2 blueberry plants on the side, but you can't see them because this thing is so massive. But yeah, so the one that I'm getting is a thornless variety, but it also is a very short one. I don't think it gets more than 3 to 4 feet tall, so that is good. So my blueberries there will have space to grow. And I have a small footprint. I need to have things be compact and dwarf size if I can, and I don't need a ton of raspberries because I like the flavor of raspberry, like in things, in desserts, in jam, but I'm not one to actually eat raspberries like fresh. That's not my thing. Okay, squashes in these. I've picked a number of squash off of the summer squash bucket. There's zucchini, there's yellow squash in there. And those things are prolific. This is probably just 2 or 3 plants, but you can see how many zucchini are there. There's no way I can eat them all. There's at least 3 each day that are ready to be picked. There's a big yellow one in there. I do like the yellow better actually than the green ones. I just think they're more flavorful. So this one is winter squash. So there may be some babies in there, but nothing really going on there. Let's go over here. Now my flower field is under construction. Let's say I decided to revamp it right in the middle of the season, and as I've said, I don't know if I said it in the last video. I didn't even know if I had decided to do it, but my goal here is I'm going to reduce the number of rows that I have so that I can have bigger walkways and make the rows a little bit wider. One, because the flower netting tends to be a certain width, and my rows were very narrow. I think they were 3 feet, and so the flower netting didn't quite fit right, and then I had some leaning over the side. I could have gone and cut it all off, but that would have been a job, because it's hard to cut through. It's not like it's easy. It's a very this particular one is a woven fiber, so it's pretty sturdy. So with it hanging down, there were instances of me tripping over it. The dogs will come in and get tangled in it. The flowers would get tangled in it when I try to get them out. So yeah, I'm gonna make the rows wider, fewer rows. So I'm taking out this narrow row, this half a row, but I have to wait till I dig up all my garlic. Ooh, it's like a jungle in here. These are all cosmos that are just big. My garlic, actually I have my little pitchfork here. I think I was going to do it yesterday and didn't get around to it, but I'm going to dig out all this garlic, and then this will just be a walkway. Okay, this was not a full row. This was like a little half a row up against the fence, so it was about 1.5 feet wide. Very narrow, but my garlic did well over there. I had shallots in there too, I think. I dug those out already. So that's going to go. That's going to be a walkway. There was another row here. I've removed most of it. In the back is Sweet William, and that's a biennial, so it's not going to bloom this year. It's not going to flower until next year. So I need to divide that and move half of it to one side and the other half to the other side of the new expansion here of the rows. And then this will be a walkway. This row is also getting more width, this row here. So I'm adding a little bit to this side as well. These 2 rows will stay the same, and that is because these 2 rows have cattle panels up for trellising in the back, and I'm not going to move those cattle panels. I actually had to have a friend help me. That was a lot of work. Those are 7-foot T-posts, very heavy duty ones. So to get those in the ground and then put 1,000 zip ties on the panels to keep them attached, I'm not taking those out. So I will leave these 2 narrow rows, but the other 2 will be wider rows, and so in total there'll only be 4 rows here versus, how many did I have before? 5.5. Okay, so yeah, my annuals are mostly done, at least the spring blooming ones. So I've been at a lull for flowers. I didn't set up the flower stand today. I didn't set it up last weekend. I mean, I could have gone around my garden and scrounged up enough flowers to have bouquets. Look at all that status over there. Isn't that pretty? But I don't want to do that. So I decided, unless I have a big flush of flowers, I'm probably not going to set up the flower stand. The flower stand will be, on occasions where I just have a larger volume of flowers that I need to try to get out of here. There's just a few snapdragons left. Most of them are gone. I did pull out those poppies. Remember that big massive poppies? I don't know if you remember that, but there was a big massive poppies there. Beautiful poppies, but poppies don't last long in a vase, maybe a day, and then they drop all the petals. But I was growing them because they were pretty, and also for the seed pots. Well, that was a bust. The seed pots all ended up with spots on them. I guess I waited too long. I was just waiting until all the petals were gone. Plus, there were so many bees and wasps on those poppies that there's no way I was going near them. I mean, like 24/7, it seemed like they were swarming it. So yeah, a lot of them had spots and stuff on them, and they just didn't look good. So I got very few poppy pots. It was disappointing. Anywho, let's see what's else back there. In the back, I did have what I believe were perennials. I think there's delphiniums and maybe larkspur back there, which I think should come back every year. So I don't know. I'm just going to leave that there and see what it does next year. These things I really like, and I have been using these as my filler. Oh my gosh, I can't remember what these are called. Chinese lanterns or something like that. But look at this green pot. So it has like a purple flower, but you use it for foliage and you wait until the flower is gone, and you get these beautiful green pods all over it, and it smells like apples or something. It smells really good. So I love this thing, whatever it's called. And this isn't many plants. This is like 2 plants. You see how massive and how tall it is. It is taller than me. So it's about 6 foot tall. The status is in full bloom. Look at that. That's so pretty. This dries very well, so I'm gonna dry most of this probably. Yeah, I'll probably dry most of it as opposed to using it in fresh flower arrangements. Here's another biennial, which I love, columbine. If you listen to my videos, you know that I love columbine and I love sweet william, which are both biennials. So this is my little patch of columbine that I planted. I don't know if I planted it in the fall, probably last fall. It's like one of the cool flowers. So that will stay, obviously. And then here is just my sage that's been here since it was a vegetable field. And the lavender, there's a lavender in there, and that's been there since I had vegetables here too, and it's just getting bigger. It's beautiful. I am of 2 minds about this deal. I do not know what to do with it. Make that smaller. It's beautiful. I like it. It kind of looks like fireworks to me, something like that, or sparkler. I like it in bouquets. The problem is the pollen drops. Pollen drops everywhere. I've tried harvesting it at different stages. I've tried harvesting it when the flowers are, just opening, all the way open. Once they've dropped and it's just these little yellow dots. No matter what stage I harvested at, even at this little yellow drop stage, a full flowered stage, that stuff still drops off of it and ends up all over my table. So I don't put it in bouquets that I would try to sell or give anyone, because I don't want them to have pollen all over their furniture and tables. But it's so pretty, and I do really like the way it looks, so I don't know what to do with it. I'm trying to dry some of it and see how the color looks when it's dry. If it's usable, then we'll have to see. Maybe if it goes to seed like this, I think this is, yeah, that looks like seed. So, but it's a more of a brown. It goes from yellow to this kind of brownish yellow, which is still attractive, but it's not as pretty as the vibrant yellow. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that. This is the raised bed where I have the extra salvia that I'm going to transplant up front in the fall. These are these 4 o'clocks, which are just starting to bloom. Man, it's a massive thing here. I had free seeds, a free seed pack of those. That's the only reason why I planted them. I've never grown them, never heard of them, but they're cute. I like them. And so I've rearranged some things. I moved all of the black pots kind of along this strip here. So you can't see anything but the tops, but basically I had some scattered all over. There are a couple that have potatoes in them. There is one that just has pansies and violas, and there is another one over there that has my little maple topiary in it. Yeah, so these are all lining here now. Potatoes in that one. This is that new hydrangea I got. It doesn't look that great, unfortunately. I don't know. It's getting bigger though, but it just looks sickly. This is called a Zorro. It has these really dark stems, and that's why I like it. So I don't know. That one may want to go on the ground because it doesn't seem to be doing that well in the pot, but we will see at the end of the season. This is an Invincible lace that I took from the front to make room for some other things that were getting big, and that needs to, it's either going to stay in the pot or I'm going to put it back in the ground somewhere eventually. More tomatoes. Let's see. Over here also, finally I got some Dara to grow. This is the only Dara I have that has produced. And I'm sure I planted a lot of seeds. And it's beautiful. I really like it. I like any flower with this kind of lacy cap. Reminds me of hydrangeas, and I love hydrangeas. That's like my favorite flower, I think. One of my favorite flowers. You know, I love roses too, and hydrangeas, yeah. So, I did pull out a lot of, well, I pulled out all of the bells of Ireland. And they were just done. And man, they served me. Oh, there's a couple still left that I missed. But they served me well. They last a long time in the vase. They smell really good. They smell kind of like apples or mint or something too. And yeah, they're pretty. So I'll be growing more of those. The coriander was a bust. I thought I might use that for cut flowers, and it was just too floppy. It just didn't hold up in the vase. But I'm letting some of it go to seed. I need to really pull that out because I don't think I'm going to mess with that one. It's starting to rain again. I have to speed this up. These are my asters. I like the asters. They're beautiful. So they are just now starting to bloom. I've been harvesting sunflowers here as they've come ready to harvest. I've gotten quite a few, and they've been beautiful. I have my second succession coming up. Uh-oh, the rain is picking up. Let's see, I did not use enough of this stuff, and it started to turn brown or go to seed pretty quickly. I could dry it, I suppose. I don't know what this is. It's some kind of cress, but it is wonderful in bouquets. It's full, it's pretty, it's this beautiful vivid green when it's fresh, and it seems to last a long time, so I'm going to grow more of that for sure. The mahogany splendor, I love. It is just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It really just got big enough to cut. I think I cut maybe 2 stems off of it. It took a long time for that to get going. A few more sunflowers, another session sprinkled in. I did get a little bit of gomphrena that came up. It's just kind of a, I don't even know if you call it a spike filler. It's very tiny and delicate, so it doesn't add much, I don't think, to a bouquet. I don't know what this stuff is called, but it is a filler, and it is super tall. It's like 7 feet tall. I just started cutting off of this as well. It's very pretty, very lacy and green, and there's a lot of it. And again, I maybe have 2 plants of this stuff here, and it's just huge. But good filler, takes up a lot of space in a bouquet, which is a good thing. Nothing else really over here to note. You know, delphiniums over here. Foxglove I was not happy with. They were all extremely short. These are the foxgloves, extremely short, so they really weren't helpful for bouquets, really. Let's see, yarrow. That yarrow is doing great. It's beautiful. I ended up with some of those dusty pink colors that I really like. I really like this dusty rose kind of palette. Yeah, and then I have white in the front, so There's a little bit of white mixed in here, but it's mostly these pinks. There was a little bit of yellow. I've cut that, I think, and used it. Up in there's a lot of cosmos that have not flowered yet. There's this eryngium. I don't know if that's what it's called. It's little balls, which is used in cut flower, but I don't like it. It's kind of spiky. They're kind of sharp, and they don't feel good. So I don't like it. It kind of reminds me of a weed in that way. Queen's Anne's lace, or one of those kinds of things. Amy. It's really pretty. Another like lace cap type of deal. And then there's a lot of nigella up there in the front, and the nigella is beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it when it blooms, the fresh blooms. I love the pods. If you leave it, it gets these beautiful pods on it. It dries well, from what I've heard. What's not to love? I will be growing more nigella for sure. I'm getting rained on, so let me move it along. Over here, the grapevines. I did put this landscape fabric down. I just bought a new roll, and I put it here. I'm not going to put it in the other two rows. Traditionally, I had wood chips, but what I would do is dump all of my grass clippings in the rows, in between the rows, because it suppresses weeds. It's a great mulch in that respect, and it's free. The problem was, for whatever reason, in this row I had more problems with keeping the weeds suppressed. The other two rows are doing fine. This one, not so much. And also in this row is where most of the suckers come up from the berry bushes. They sucker everywhere, so you get little berry plants that just stick up everywhere, and it's every day I'm pulling them out. You have to, otherwise it'll just take over your whole garden. So I put this down to suppress some of that, and that's fine. I'm not going to put it in the other two rows because I really don't like the look of this. Look at that hummingbird. Oh my gosh, I don't even think you could see it. Oh my, right in front of the dahlia. He took off. There was that red dahlia down there. There was a hummingbird like hovering right in front of it. Man, that was amazing. I always find it amazing when I can catch hummingbirds because they're so hard to see. They're so tiny. They look like insects sometimes. But yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna leave the other two wood chips and keep putting the grass clippings down to help suppress the weeds. It seems to work. But in this row, I'm going to keep this fabric here. And use that. My white blackberries are just now starting to kind of ripen up. I'm very excited. They're very small berries, but they're so sweet and so delicious. It is truly my favorite blackberry that I have in my yard. This one is doing well. This is a thornless variety. I don't think I maybe got one or two off of that yet. As you can see, they're just now turning red, most of them, and they need to get purple before they're ready. This one I've got the most berries from. This is also a thornless variety, and I love these berries off of this thing. They are sweet. This is called a Freedom Primo Cane blackberry, and I love it. The berries are sweet. They're huge. It is fantastic. These other three, there's a boysenberry, a marionberry, and a loganberry here, and they're not fruiting. Well, no, I take that back. This one in the middle has a few berries on it, you can see, but the other two aren't fruiting this season, and that's okay. They're healthy. Over here, the grapes are again getting pretty bushy, which means I got to come in and do some pruning. I do prune them regularly because, like I said before, I try to keep just two main canes or vines. And then, let a few bracts hang down from that. So I gotta come in here and do some pruning because I don't like it when it gets all crowded with the foliage. That's just a breeding ground to me for like mildew and rust and stuff like that. I do have these dahlias in between, and I've harvested a few. They've just really started blooming. There's a yellowish orange one. This one is kind of a pinkish. It has a smaller flower though. It's a pinkish with a yellow center. This is actually the first bloom on this one, or at least the first large one. That's pretty. It's a deep red with yellow kind of towards the center. This is where the hummingbird was hovering a few minutes ago. It took off though. And this one is more of a yellow-orange. None of them are spectacular. I mean, I really haven't had one bloom yet that I was like, oh my gosh, that's the most beautiful thing ever. I do really like this purple one. It has a small flower though, but it's a deep burgundy purplish color. I do not like. This is the one I like the least. I don't know what this one's called, but it's some weird, like a candy cane. It's like white with red and then yellow in the center. I do not like that one. I have cut a few of these black-eyed Susans, which is a perennial, so that should be coming back. Very excited. And then in the back, in between the grapevines, I do have some zinnias that are just kind of taking off now. Yeah, and my grapes are doing well. I don't know if you can see them. I'm not going to go all the way back there, but you can see a few hanging down. So I'm excited about the grapes. Let me keep it moving before the rain picks up. This is another little patch of zinnias. It's because I needed more space, and there was just a bunch of compost here, which is very fertile. I finally looked through my files, and this is a hibiscus. I think it's called the sugar tip, and I'm not certain, I think it has a pinkish, light pink, pale pink flower, but it's a hibiscus basically. Kind of tree. I can't think of the other name for it. Rose of Sharon, Rose of Sharon tree. So, and my cherry tree here, this is a golden cherry tree. I've taken it way down. It was getting massive. It was over 6 feet tall because it was taller than the fence. And I need my fruit trees to stay at a size where, one, I can harvest the fruit from the ground, and two, I can net them if I need to keep the birds and stuff away. So they have to stay, 6 feet or shorter. Let's see, the asparagus patch is doing what it does. Nothing new there. I did dig up all of my garlic, and there was a few onions in here too. I just dug all that up, so I got a whole nother bushel of garlic, so I'm excited about that. I do like garlic. Let's see, there's a lot of basil in here that I was growing to use for cut flower bouquets, but it's so late to start to take off. And then there's some other herbs in here too that have been here for a while, like this oregano and sage. I think there's tarragon in there too, French tarragon, which I'm excited about. There are I think that's all just one squash plant. I had two, and I actually pulled one out accidentally. I was trying to prune it, and I pulled a little bit too hard, and the whole thing came out of the ground. And so that was that. But the one is massive enough. So yeah, I think that's zucchini. I think just green zucchini. And then I got some more onions back here that aren't quite ready yet. A bunch more of the celery. We've talked about that. There are some leafy greens there. It's some kind of kale or mustard green. I did harvest. I had a huge cauliflower that I came back here and harvested. Actually, it's in the fridge. So it was just this past week. There are fennel bulbs up there that I need to harvest at least one or two of those soon because they're getting big. I do like fennel. Fennel is really good. It's good cooked, but I usually eat it fresh in salads, that kind of thing. I pulled out all the peas because it was too hot. They were dying off. It was time. So I pulled those out. There's a few volunteer sunflowers. And one thing I know that I've learned about sunflowers is that when they volunteer, meaning the lash, you plant them, they drop seed, and that seed just springs up out of nowhere. When they do that, typically they will revert to a multi-stemmed little tree. Like, you plant a single stem variety, it's going to turn into something that branches and gives you multiple little sunflowers, which is pretty cool. So I just left this one because it wasn't bothering anything when it started to come up, because I pulled most of them out. They were everywhere. But look at all so see, it has the big one at the top, and this one is a little bit taller than the fence, so it's about 6.5 feet. And then it has all of these little sunflowers going down the stem here. So I'm excited about that. My corn. Look at this corn. OMG. This is the tallest corn I have ever grown, and I've grown corn ever since I had a garden for the past, this is the third year. But it has never gotten this tall, so I don't know. It's the same varieties I always plant. It's a mix of 2 or 3 different kinds. I don't know if it's maybe because I didn't plant that much of it. Usually I plant at least 2 rows maybe, and this time I just planted, 1 row. I don't know, but it is taller. Oh my, pretty awesome. Another one of those big branching sunflowers that popped up. And like I said, in there, it's just a bunch of basil, basically. And there may be a couple of other annuals in there and herbs. This is a row of annuals that is just starting to flower. I can see some feverfew up in the front. I think this is Cleome, which I'm very excited about. It's more of a cottage garden kind of flower. And another volunteer sunflower, it looks like. More bachelor's buttons. That was a mistake. That was before I knew I didn't really like them. Planted that. Cosmos. This is the purplish color I was talking about from the other side. It's very pretty. And it has long stems, so I do like the cosmos. A lot of people complain about harvesting cosmos. I think it's easier than bachelor's buttons, personally. So let's see. That's just a mix, like I said, of perennials over here. I had some more volunteer sunflowers, and I've harvested a couple of those. But there's another hydrangea, a privet here. This one columbine that I cut all the way down, and it reflushed. Amazing. So that thing just keeps going and going. This honeysuckle is finally taken off. I just planted this not too long ago, but it smells so good. Yeah. And more lilies that are coming up. I didn't really like the look of these, so I'm not going to use these in bouquets. I don't like that. I don't know what kind it is, but it's almost like it's speckled, like somebody took paint and splashed it on it. I don't like that one. And then this one is more of a, I don't know what they call it, a tiger lily or something. That one I don't like so much either. I don't mind the orange, but I don't like that speckling. So that one I shall leave just as decorative. Here's 2 squash plants. They're huge. Fig tree over here. It'd be nice if I actually got some figs, but I don't think that's going to happen this year. Matter of fact, I thought they had all died because they all died back to the ground. There was nothing. And then they came, all of a sudden started growing. So there's one there. And then I have a fig over there and a fig over there. So I have 3. More lilies in here that are coloring up, so I probably will cut some of the other colors, the smaller ones. Here are my new seedlings that I need to get into the ground. These are my cool weather crops that I'm starting now because I will then be able to harvest them before winter. So like broccoli and cauliflower, that kind of thing is there. And then, hurry up and wrap this up. I planted a bunch of sedum over here in the ground, which I'm hoping will get tall enough to use for cut flowers next season. So that's doing well. There's a couple of peonies over here, more than a couple, 3 or 4. Some little mini roses. And that's all that's over here now. I did plant some sunflowers for another succession. I just planted some sunflower seeds, and then I planted some saponaria seeds to use for cut flowers as well. And then there's another hydrangea there. My Limelight Primes, 1 died out of the 8, so I have 7, and they are all, except for this one, which is the biggest one. Oh, this one too. They're all starting to flower. Look at that. So that's going to be beautiful in the fall. And the grass needs to be cut, so it's looking a mess back here, but ignore that. So there's a fig. As I said, I'm interplanting shrubs in between the trees because I'm trying to fill this area so there's not as much grass to mow, honestly. And the shrubs I want to use for cut flowers, right, for my filler and foliage. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. That's a cherry tree. And a hydrangea. I think this is, I just planted this. I think this is a Bobo hydrangea. That's a 9-bark, I believe, over there. This might be another cherry tree. This is that pearl bush, and this is forsythia. And I just planted these like yesterday or the day before. I got, it's either an apple or pear tree there. And then I have nectarines back here, a couple of those. And plums, and probably something else. I couldn't tell you offhand. Yeah. So these are the pussy willows. There's two of those, a black one and a white one. But yeah, apples and pears are back here, you know. As I said, I have at least 30 fruit and nut trees, so I need to go through and relabel them because they were all labeled. Either the labels are down in the tubes. You know, the tubes are there to the guards to protect the bark, but either the labels are down in there or they've torn off, blown off with the wind. So I have a map that I made, a chart that I made with the name of everything and where it is. I just need to go make tags and put it on everything, which when the season slows down, I will do that. Yeah. So what else do I got going on? I think that's it. I did put a weed barrier here too, as you can recall. I just had some shrubs here. Basically, I'm trying to make a hedge in front of the fence, so to deter my dogs from jumping over the fence into the garden beds. So I was building a hedge slowly but surely. So I have a few shrubs here, and then I had some of those black pots sitting here. So I moved those and I put them on landscape fabric because it's just too hard to constantly be trying to mow in between these shrubs and weed whack around them. I still do need to pull weeds at the base of the shrubs, but I haven't had time yet. I just got the fabric down. It's been, you know, super hot. It had been in the 90s every day, so it's kind of hard to work out here. Plus I work full time during the day, so you know, I don't have much time left to work in the garden, but I am doing my best for a one-man show. I think I'm doing pretty good. Oh my. All right, so that's all I got. I have taught and taught and taught. This is like an hour-long video now. Every time I say I'm gonna make this quick, try to do it in 30 minutes or less. It never works out that way. All right, well, thank you for joining me, and I will be back sometime, maybe next week, maybe tomorrow. I may do it tomorrow morning if I have time. Another front yard tour, because things have changed up there too, and I have pulled out a lot of things because things are getting big. So since I plant things close together, I usually end up having to move things, pull things out, or some things, you know, like different kinds of annuals get worn out and it's time for them to go. Sometimes I planted things and I may have liked it initially and then I don't like it, and so I don't want it there anymore, like all that liriope that I no longer like. So it's constantly changing, and the way I look at it now is that the garden is a living, breathing entity. I mean, it is living. The plants are alive, right? And then there are all kinds of critters and everything in there. So the way I see it now is it is a living, breathing entity, and so it grows, it shifts, it changes, it responds to weather, it responds to you. It is really a ongoing process of becoming whatever it is it's going to become. So that is my take on the garden, and thank you for joining me. Until next time, bye-bye.